Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of JKLMedia, your one-stop shop for all things pop culture, fantasy, science fiction, and really any topic we feel like discussing. I am one of your co-hosts, Jesse. Joining me today is Lou.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
And the podcast mom, Karen.
Hello.
Who is going to be leading our discussion. So I will turn the steering wheel over to you, Karen, and let you drive the bus.
Thank you. Okay, so like our Midnight Mass series, we're going to be doing another short series about the FX, I guess it's Hulu on FX on Hulu show Devs, Devs. I really enjoyed watching this a couple years ago, and I thought this, since it's a limited series, there's not going to be a season 2. I thought it would be a good thing to talk about, especially with all three of us having a technology-based background. So, and also it discusses other things that we've talked about. It's in the sci-fi genre, and I just found it really interesting. So I asked my two lovely co-hosts to watch the first 2 episodes. And they both were in for watching it. So yay for you guys. I'm very happy. And we'll be talking about the show. And I want to do a little bit of background real quick. And then I'll ask some questions, get you guys talking, and we'll discuss the first 2 episodes. So this show was created, written, and directed by Alex Garland. He is behind The Beach. He wrote the book, and he also wrote the screenplay for the movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. He's also behind 28 Days and 28 Days Later and Ex Machina, the movie. So he comes from a background of genre stuff. He doesn't like sticking with one thing for very long. He likes doing a movie or a limited series, and then he moves on to something else. He never had intentions of doing a season 2 for this, so he ended it at episode 8. So I liked that about it, the fact that I didn't have to worry about some kind of cliffhanger or anything like that. It dropped all at once. It was released in March of 2020, and they categorize it as a science fiction thriller. I would also put like a cyberpunk label on it, dystopian almost, but not future. And I was so interested in all the themes surrounding this show, and I thought it was like something in our wheelhouse. It's a thriller, but it's not a horror thriller. It's more like a based in real world thriller. It got an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is super good for a streaming show. Nominated for 4 Emmys: cinematography, sound editing, sound mixing, and visual effects. Also nominated for some other awards. Nick Offerman was nominated. Photography and lighting, sound effects, and Foley, and then main acting by Nick Offerman. They filmed the show mostly at the University of California, Santa Cruz, which I'm from that area, and I know the campus. We visited there several times. The mascot, just as a side note, is the banana slug. Santa Cruz is laid back and freewheeling, and I think it's interesting that their mascot is the banana slug. Their campus is really cool. They have like a huge, like human-sized chessboard there and a bunch of other stuff. It's a very cool campus. I could see why they would film there. You can see how expansive the show is. The forest is there. That's not special effects or anything. That is the landscape of that area. I guess it's part of the Monterey Bay area. Touches on themes of free will and determinism. There's a mention of Laplace's demon, which I looked up some stuff on Wikipedia, where his idea states that free will is merely an illusion and that every action previously taken, currently being taken, or that will take place was destined to happen from the instant of the Big Bang. So there's a lot of stuff. He also works with this stable of actors. I'm not going to get into that, but the main actors are Sonoya Mizuno as Lily. She's our main character. And Nick Offerman as Forrest. Jinha as Jamie. That would be Lily's ex. Zach Grenier is Kenton, the head of security at Amaya. Stephen McKinley Henderson is Stuart, who's one of the dev team. Kaylee Spaney as Lyndon, who's another part of the devs team, and Alison Pill as Katie, who is the chief designer and Forrest's right-hand girl. And we also had Carl Glusman as Sergei Pavlov. Pavlov, I thought, was an interesting last name for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really only in it a little bit, but we do see some flashbacks and things later on. So while he's kind of a main character, he's also kind of not. Now, for episode 1, we have when her boyfriend Sergei vanishes after starting a new job at the secretive devs division of the tech company Amaya. Software engineer Lily begins to suspect that his disappearance may not be as clear-cut as it seems. So let's talk about that. Who wants to go first?
So I will. I had heard nothing about the show when you suggested it. I said, sure. So watch the first episode. Alison Pill has been in a couple of things that I really like. She was in the latest Picard season, but I first discovered a Newsroom, which is the Aaron Sorkin HBO series, and she was really good in that. So I was very happy to see her. Not a different kind of character for her. She is very non-expressive.
Stoic.
Yeah, very stoic, yes. And I don't know if that is because on this thing you're very confused on I am confused about what they're trying to do and what's going on. And
as you should be.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. So I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes, and there's a lot of assumptions I'll make when we get to other things that may or not be right, but I'm watching with an open mind.
And the one thing that I find interesting is that we already know who did it.
Yes.
So it's not a who done it, it's a why done it.
Yes.
For me.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very cool. Okay, Lou.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, again, this type of show just shows how much content there is out there, because until you brought this up, I had never even heard of this show. So, but I was intrigued as soon as you mentioned that Alex Garland was attached to it, because I loved Ex Machina, and to a lesser degree, I thought Annihilation was a very interesting movie as well. A little obtuse at points, but I definitely enjoyed it. So coming into this, it was like Jesse said, you're lost because you're not really sure the time period. You know, it's not too far in the future, but you're not really sure how far. The scenes of San Francisco are interesting because it's fog and smog, and so it's a dingy version of the future. The technology is interesting. I was really struck by some of the design elements, especially like when they were walking through the woods and you see like these rings around the trees, and I said, what the heck is that for? And then we found out later on they're lights, and I go, oh, that's cool. So this whole setup for this episode, I don't know how far you want me to go, but I guess I should just keep it to my overall thoughts. I'm really intrigued with it. I'm not quite sure of where it's going, but from a technical perspective, it's really well done. The acting, the lead, Lily, Sonoya Mizuno. I'm just going to call her Sonoya.
Yeah.
She's an interesting choice because, like Jesse just mentioned with Alison Pill, who's a very constrained character, she is too. She's got that inscrutable countenance, I guess you could say. So it's hard to warm up to her in the lead. Actually, the most intriguing character for me right now is the security guy, Kent, because he looks so out of shape, but the dude gets things done. So
yep.
So and then obviously the company and what they're doing there is all intriguing, and I'm very interested to see where this goes, especially after the second episode.
Right. Yeah, the second episode really gets into more of what Forrest's motivation is for this sort of thing. One of the things I really want to talk about is the Faraday cage that they work in. What did you guys think of that design? Because I loved it. I would love to work in a building like that. Although not being able to like take your lunch in or anything is, I don't know that I could handle that, but I think it's cool that they do this. Nothing in, nothing out. It's completely hermetically sealed. No information can get in and out. So what do you guys think of that? I mean, that theoretically can be done. It's just, it would be so expensive to do. It's prohibitive, the cost. So what did you guys think of that design? I know the forest is cool, like you said, with the lights around the trees, futuristic looking. I think it's set in the very near future.
Yeah, it has to be because he's
what do you guys
driving
think
a
about
Subaru.
that?
So
right, exactly. Although they say it's a piece of trash car, which means it's older. So yeah, it's probably like 10 or 15 years old.
Yeah.
So, Luke, I'll let you go first.
Okay. The design of the dev's environment, or where this computer is being housed, did they ever name it? I don't think they did.
Mm-mm.
It was cool. It's I understood the concept of a Faraday cage to block background electromagnetic fields and whatnot. I didn't understand why it had to levitate. Like, that seemed to be rather excessive to me and an unnecessary power draw, but maybe that'll be explained later on. But yeah, the design of the thing was really cool, and I didn't really understand what those gold pillars out front were doing either.
They were part of I would call it almost like a neural net that stops anything from getting in or out.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any kind of a wave that gets out, it gets stopped.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not spoiling anything, but he is so proprietary about what's going on in there. I think he is afraid that someone's going to burrow underneath it and get in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So that he just wants to block every entrance, every wave, everything that can get in and out.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want it sitting on the ground. He doesn't want it touching anything else. He wants it sealed. He wants a second layer of protection around it. He's very, very protective of what goes on.
Well, yeah, because we don't know what the technology that is involved with the quantum computer, and quantum mechanics is our century or our decade's version of back in the 50s and 60s. It was radiation mutation was kind of like the big thing. Now it's quantum mechanics, quantum computing. It's the springboard for a lot of science fiction ideas. So the design of the interior was interesting too. The workstation, the actual display of the computer itself, like the piece that was shown with all the piping, to me it just looked like a glorified radiator. So I wasn't really blown away by it. I thought it was okay, that's interesting, but it's a chandelier, so I didn't really, but the display that we got to see later on, that was cool. So it's got that science fiction vibe to it, but we see so many of these things, like, we take it for granted now, but just the idea of having to have this thing so isolated from the natural environment, it was pretty impressive. But I just kept on thinking, man, the power draw in this thing, like, how is he getting away with with that? Unless he's got his own power plant or something.
Yeah, that's something that they don't really get into through the whole thing. You just assume that this guy is just so rich that he can do whatever he wants.
Which in the first episode he did.
Yeah,
he does. Right.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you felt about Forrest and Kenton. Forrest seems so philosophical, and Kenton is like not.
Yeah. Jesse hasn't given his thoughts yet.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
The Faraday cage. Sorry.
I thought that was cool. I was a little confused at the beginning. Our soon-to-be non-existing hero. Yeah, Sergei, right?
Yes. I don't know that I'd call him a hero.
Well, the lead, right? That he's all proud of showing this. And I guess I was like, oh, okay, that was cool. But Forrest was impressed enough that he sends them to, as you guys talked about this, the developers. I'm going to promote you. And from my perspective, I guess I've worked in call centers too long. It was like, what do you mean just do what you're supposed to do? Okay, like, what am I supposed to do? What goal am I getting for? What do I do? I just pick at any workstation you want and just start coding. Well, coding to what? Now, something is made him freak out when he looks at that screen. And I said, why are they filming his watch so much? Like, okay.
They hung a lantern on that watch.
Yeah, they did. And I have questions. First off, why wouldn't you have eased into a routine before you tried to sneak away something? Right? Like, you know, like, hey, let's build some trust. But it is the stoic mechanism almost is, it feels like these are not necessarily real people. Some of the people in the dev cage, and this being science fiction, you go, okay, or could these be androids? Could these be, other like AI construct?
I'll tell you right now, they're all people.
Okay.
Oh, don't do
There's
that.
no androids.
No.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know that.
So it was.
That's not spoiling anything for you.
So it was really interesting. So I love the Faraday cage, and I love the fact that often these shows can build a little bit like, okay, let's get the story going. This one, right from the ground, right? Like we immediately, oh my goodness, Forrest perception is, and obviously he is behaving like a villain. Of course, all good villains are heroes in their own story. So we immediately have this going on that, as you said very well, it's not who did it, it's why they did it. And when we get to Keaton, the great Zach Grenier, who always plays,
he's so good.
Like, I don't know if you watched The Good Wife or The Good Fight, but he plays a family law attorney in that series, the same character, and he is just deliciously immoral. I won't call him evil. It just, he's all about, hey, I'm going to help my client and I'm going to get rich doing it, right? And both of them are just as important. Helping my client.
He plays a similar character in Ray Donovan and also Deadwood.
Yes.
He's typecast, but he's so interesting that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah. But I guess if I was a coder, the idea of just do whatever you want to do. I do love the fact that I think I'm watching For All Mankind, which is one of my favorite series, and Helix is this similar Amazon, Google type corporation, and the head of the corporation, there's no titles, there's no offices, there's nothing. We're all equal. And Karen Baldwin, which is one of the characters, calls her and it goes, yeah, you keep everyone equal, but except you. You're the owner. So really,
it's not.
Yeah, people do what you want to do. And so I love the idea of like, there is no titles, there's no things, just go do your work. And it didn't work out for Sergio.
Nope, it sure didn't. Yeah, and I know he sounds like a villain, Forrest, but that dude was a Russian spy. I mean, you can't really blame him for being upset. I think.
But I assume this is a business spy. In other words, I don't know if it's necessarily for the Soviet Union, or for some kind of Russian
counterpart to that company.
Russian company or something.
Right. Like the Russian version of Microsoft or whatever.
Right.
That's a little murky.
Yeah.
But you'll understand why they want it over the course of the show.
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away. So that's as far as I'll go there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you'll understand why it's so important to not let that leak.
Yeah.
To the Russians. It's very important.
Yeah.
Along with the Faraday cage, we had Stuart and Lyndon, and I thought they were very interesting. You mentioned that he says, just go for it. Be free. Do what you want. You have to look at the code first. And I think it's pretty apparent to someone as a high-level coder like him as to what the code is about. And you get a hint at the kind of things when he shows Forrest in the beginning, along with his little team there, that he can predict what a living organism can do 10 seconds into the future.
Right.
So that really alerted Forrest to say, hey, he knows what he's doing in this kind of thing. So let's put him there. It's esoteric. He'll understand the code. And I think that's why he just says, go for it, to let him discover what the code is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if he told him, I don't think he would believe it.
Nope. I don't think so either.
And I think it's important that you mentioned that scene, Karen, because I might be wrong, but I believe that is the encapsulation of this series, is that Sergei's using traditional computing to predict the movements of this nematode or wherever it was. But he hits a limit after, like, I don't know, was it 30 seconds or something, because the numbers just become too complex. So that's the barrier that he's hitting that I believe Forrest has conquered to a large degree with his quantum computer. So he's gotten past that barrier, but he's, as we find out in the second episode, the barrier that now is they're trying to get better resolution on the things that they're predicting or recalling, I guess we'll say for now. So that's kind of, that scene was very important to the whole.
Yes,
I believe that's the series in a nutshell. But we'll see.
Because I get the feeling, right, that you watch this, that time is to quote Doctor Who, like wiggly woggly, timey wimey, right? That time is not linear. And with this calculations, because to me, the fuzzy screen, and maybe because we just watched Midnight Mass, I was like, is this the crucifixion that they're seeing in really bad, a scrambled, like if you turn to HBO back when the old day and you didn't have HBO, it would be fuzzy.
How many times did I watch Grease like that when we didn't have HBO?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like. And you're going, okay, are they coding so that they can create a viewer that will see the future and the past? I don't know, but and if that's the case, if Sergio could see immediately, oh my goodness, this is groundbreaking stuff, and his handler, it maybe was bugging him, like get something. So maybe that's why he did a little quicker, but really intriguing. Like, what are they building? What are they wanting to do? And why are they willing to kill to save this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the driver obviously is Forrest's dead daughter, Amaya, which I'm glad they introduced in the second episode, because in the first episode, this is the issue with science fiction shows. They have like to do double duty, whereas a contemporary show, you can just get into the characters right away. In this one, they have to build out this whole universe based around this computer and that. So they kept thinking, Amaya, is this an acronym for something? And I was kind of going analytical machine, but I couldn't figure out what the Y stood for. So I was like, but I'm glad they showed that. And because it's creepy that when the first couple of shots, when you see them driving to Amaya, that big statue of the girl is there. I kept on waiting for it to move or something like that.
Right?
It reminded me of a Harvey's game or whatever. Big Boy Burger or whatever that is.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So the show's doing a lot of work, and because of that, the characters are cryptic in the first episode. I think they get a little bit better in the second one, and I'm hoping with each one that'll come out. But as to your point, Jesse, the thing with this computer is we don't know if it's a viewer or is it a controller or is it both? Like, yeah, is his goal to somehow resurrect his daughter? Like, I forced to resurrect his daughter. I'm not sure. That's the vibe I get, and I hope it's something different, because we've seen or read stories where a person, a brilliant person, loses it because of the loss of a loved one. I hope that this is not what this is going to be restricted to. I can understand that can be a motivator, but I hope it's going to be something beyond that, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, he's motivated by a lot of things. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, he doesn't care about the environment.
Nope, he certainly doesn't. But he does say things to people, and while he's not being transparent, he's not lying to them. So when he says he thinks things are destined to happen,
but don't you think think that he's a very fractured character? Because he'll talk about determinism and free will, and like when he's talking to Sergei about this whole thing, like, I'm not mad at you because your path brought you to this point, and so you did what you did, and it was going to happen no matter what, or it had been predetermined. So you're confused about, okay, is this free will or what? And then he has that other conversation with Lily talking about what happened to him when his daughter died. And he's very shut down. And with that, I don't know if that's a wig and a fake beard, but he looks like
no, that's him.
Okay, he looks like an overweight Kelsey Grammer. But he could become to me, a very stereotypical kind of character. So like you said, that there's more there, don't say any more, which is good, because right now he's being set up as a fairly, like a straightforward kind of character, a parent grieving the loss of a child. So I hope there's more there. His character has a very split personality. He's very phlegmatic in his relationship with his coworkers, and that he has a bit more of a friendship with Kenton, the security guard character. He's obviously driven to do something because he's willing to kill people. So that's, I'm very interested to see where they take that character, for sure.
Yeah, and it is almost a Jekyll and Hyde. Like, he's, oh my goodness, Lily, let's call the police immediately. I mean, the character is such a good actor, and oh my goodness, get this. And then, okay, take whatever time you need. Your job is secure, and just take whatever you need. And he seems to have no guilt whatsoever. It is almost two distinct personalities, right? And so I find that very interesting. I did not watch Park and Recs. It's on my list of things that when I have
you need to watch it.
The time, I have heard that start especially the second season and just go from there.
Watch the first season, but know that it's bad.
Yeah.
There's stuff that sets up in the first season.
But I recognize that actor is really well done.
Yeah.
Nick. And so it's very intriguing and a lot of questions, but not in a bad way, in a frustrating way. Like sometimes we can talk about, because we talked about that with our Babylon 5 discussion, that at times you can get frustrated going, okay, come on, hurry it up.
Right.
I think what helps is, this is only 8 episodes?
8, yes.
Yeah. And so it feels more like a novel where, okay, I'm intrigued, but I'm going through the story the way they're wanting to tell it. They're wanting to tell the story the way they tell them. Yes.
Yeah. His character, I think he believes everything he says.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everything he says is true.
Right.
I think he believes everything he says. And again, that's my perception of him.
Yeah.
I was especially intrigued by the scene that he had with Kenton when he was outside his house there, and Kenton was telling him, says, you should move, and then Forrest says, I know what you're doing. I'm not living in the past. I'm moving past it, but I'm going to myself, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So that that his whole dichotomy of characters is right in that scene. So that's interesting. I'm curious, how did you two feel about Lily as the lead in this series? I'm conflicted myself. I'm interested to hear what Karen, what do you think of her? Because you've recommended this series and her arc is what we're seeing now representative of what she's going to be at the end? Or I hope she has an arc too, because
no, she arcs up a bit.
Okay.
She's not very emotive, but I think because of all the things that are going on, she shows much more emotion later on. Although we did see her racked with sorrow over Sergei getting killed. I thought that scene was good when she's yelling and she sees him self-immolating. And again, is not the second episode, or is it the first? I'm not sure.
Second.
It's one of the, okay. But she is dogged about what's going on. She never drops it. So you see more and more of her intensity.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't love her yet, as in, I really find her intriguing, but I did love the scenes where she's talking to his handler, Sergei's
Anton.
handler. Yeah, I like that scene. I love the idea that she ends the sign with "F-U," right, where she's going to be independent. I did love the interaction between her ex-boyfriend and her. Like, that takes a lot of courage, or just
balls.
Yeah, to go like, okay, you left me, you dumped me, and I like that. Okay, we can argue about that later. But right now, I need your help on this. And I think, to Jamie's credit, he's like, okay, I'm going to end up helping you.
But it doesn't put her in a very sympathetic light, though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
That was I don't understand that decision.
Yeah. And I also don't know quite what has triggered her on why she's suspicious. I don't know if and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Karen and Lou. Like, they have done this by some kind of technology where they're able to take, and that's not a big stretch, right? Like, they say we are very close to taking CGI and put Elvis in a modern movie, right? Because you can take all that data, manipulate it, and add it. So it is not unrealistic but she has seen a photo of him leaving campus. We've seen him coming back and killing himself. Now, the thought is, I guess her point is why? I don't see any signs of why he was depressed. Why would he do this? So I guess I've answered my own question. That's where the intrigue came from, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. How was she clued into this?
Yeah. That's why it doesn't make any sense to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Did she also mention that something seemed off with Sergei in the videos, which led me to a thought that said, did they use a quantum computer to generate this different reality where these events actually happened? Like your initial thought is, okay, they faked this with CGI or something like that. But I'm wondering if it was just but I guess it couldn't be because they don't have the resolution.
Right. Not yet. I think they used a double. And, we have that technology where you can put someone else's face on your body and it looks pretty good. And like in real life, we have that technology. So
they probably had a lot of footage of him coming and going from the building too. So they just recomposite it with
I think they did a bunch of things to do that, especially since it took them a couple of days to get it done. I think they were working furiously, and I'm guessing he had the devs team do it because they're the only ones in the know about that sort of thing. And his little sidekick, what's her name, Katie, she's also a developer, just so you know.
Yeah, okay.
So she works every once in a while in there. She is the chief designer on the devs team.
Okay.
Not just his right hand secretary sort of thing.
Yeah.
They work hand in hand. And so I'm assuming that they did some manipulation. And again, that's not giving anything away. That's the last you see of that footage. And we know that the company's called Amaya. We talked about this a little bit, named after his daughter.
And what does the company do? Is it
it's like a Microsoft
or Google or something? It's
right, where it does a lot of different things, but it's all technology based.
Okay.
So it manufactures phones, watches. I do like that he called the watch his 007 watch or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not impressed by it, but he's also kind of impressed that he managed to get that in there. Yeah. That Sergei managed to find a loophole in the getting things in and out. But again, Forrest is on top of it.
Yeah.
I think there is probably something in that code that shows if someone's downloaded it, which again, we can do today. So it was stupid of him to do that. I would think he should take screenshots with his watch instead of downloading stuff. But again, that's a hand wave sort of thing.
But if we believe Forrest, they knew this was going to happen. So no matter what he did, I don't think they knew it was going to happen, but I think he's not surprised by it. Okay. I don't know that they knew 100% that he was a spy, but once he got in there, they watched him. I think they probably watch anyone closely when they first go to the devs team. Yeah.
And he's like, okay, my suspicions are correct. He wanted in there. And again, it's not giving anything away for them to be looking into it. So we see a lot of character interplay. And we know that Katie and Forrest are close. Kenton and Forrest are close, but Katie and Kenton don't really interact very much.
Yeah.
And I feel like Forrest compartmentalizes everything. She's part of the technology. He's part of the security. And never the twain shall meet.
Yeah.
Although Katie does know what's going on. She was present when Kenton killed Sergei. So she's in the know, but I don't think they overlap, which I found really cool that Forrest is very controlling of everything. And that's one of the themes and that's why he doesn't want any of that code getting out.
Yeah.
He wants to control it 100%. He doesn't want anyone knowing what he's doing, any code getting out. He doesn't want anything being known by anyone. The fact that it's Russian, it doesn't matter to him. Yeah. He just doesn't want it getting out.
Sure.
Yeah, because I still think his end goal is to bend reality, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, the idea, and I don't know if they're going to be that, but the idea of bringing his daughter back, having a world where his daughter he doesn't lose his daughter. But we've seen that never works, right? Like Bullwinkle and Rocky, right? Yeah. Changing time just doesn't ever work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll not mention anything about Amaya. I'll stop there.
That's my speculation because it's more than It's just
trying to advance technology. It's more.
it's more than just a commercial application. He's really trying to Dr. Frankenstein something here. I'm sure of it.
And there is that part of it
Mhm.
that they've built something groundbreaking,
Because
and he's into that.
Because I was like, when they showed the what seems to be the crucifixion, I was like going, holy crap. That really blew me away. I was going like, man, oh man.
I'll confirm that it was the crucifixion. They do mention in the second episode as well, we managed to go back 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So they're telling you it's the crucifixion. And that's pretty weird that they can get the technology to do that.
And Stephen McKinney Henderson, he had a small part in The Newsroom, and he's been in a couple other things. And I thought
he was in Severance too, if I'm not mistaken. But
I think he was.
Yeah, and I think he's an interesting character, right? And in this, like, we should be popping champagne, we should be happy, and Forrest is like, okay, yeah, I'll approve it, go get it. But he is, Forrest is a typical boss, as in often bosses don't want to celebrate small successes. It's just like, okay, great, now what's next? And that's one of the things.
I'm not impressed.
And that's one of the things that I, as a guy who runs a team, I try to make sure we celebrate our successes. It's too often that you're like, we focus on our failures, and then when we have a success, we don't take at least a few minutes to celebrate and then go, okay, now what's next? Right. And so, and I thought that was an interesting dynamic. And Forrest's like, yeah, fine, as you want, but like, we've got other fish to fry, as they say.
Yeah. I was also chuckling because the other character in the room, Lyndon, right? She was like, she was like a Ellen Elliott Page clone, or even like from The Last of Us, that girl, that video game character. So it's funny to see that kind of character in this environment, and she looks like a kid. So it's another trope moment. I was just kind of, I don't know if it was an in-joke or what, but it was funny that they presented her that way. So
yeah, it's a female actress, but the character's male.
Oh, okay.
But it's supposed to be that nebulous, sort of thing.
Yep.
Which I found really cool.
Yeah.
I like that character.
It's an interesting show, and it reminds me a lot of Mr. Robot in style and execution. So like, because that Elliot character was very ACD, so so that character was very buttoned down, but inside his head all this stuff was going on. So I don't know if we're going to get these inner glimpses into some of these characters, but it's got that vibe, and it's shot very interesting. I like the cityscape shots, because it was a lot of night shots, San Francisco, but it made it look like it was like the circuits inside a big computer or something like that, like a very Tron look to it. So that was interesting. And even like the beginning shot, I think it was with Lily in her apartment, it was like out of focus, so she's like an alien or something, and then it came into focus. So you're going, okay, is this somehow something virtual being made real? I don't know if it's just maybe that's just a stylistic thing that they're just trying to get you thinking. But I noticed all those kind of things. And there was another nice little Easter egg. I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but at one point in this episode, Lily was reading a book on her bed, and it was The Colossus, written by D.F. Jones. And it was a famous 1970 movie starring a pre-young and restless Eric Braeden. And it's about a supercomputer that takes over the world. So I don't know if that's another Easter egg or something there, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out the movie. It's very old, 1970, but and the technology obviously is really outdated in that, but it's the ideas behind that movie still hold up quite well, and it's just fun to see Eric Braeden before he became a soap opera star.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, and none of that is accidental. When you're building that, there's always something about that.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. I'm really digging the show.
Yeah, I am
and
too.
I'm ready to watch the next 2 episodes.
Good.
So, like,
Yeah,
now I'm
me
like you
too.
guys were with Midnight Mass. I understand
Yep. The appeal. Yeah.
the chomping
Yeah.
at the bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I agree.
So
Yeah.
the one last thing I want to talk about, which I think we talked about most everything. We got Jamie and Lily and all that stuff, all the interplay, is the atmospheric parts of the show.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned how San Francisco looks with the fire. I'll tell you right now, it looks like that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
San Francisco was kind of my stomping grounds back in the day.
Mm.
It was only a couple hours away, and we would go there to have fun for a day and then come back home. I went there on a lot of dates. I'll tell you that right now. It's a very cool city to go eating or, go to the wharf or whatever.
Or just to drive up and down the hills.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love San Francisco. And we even saw, this is how old I am, we saw the King Tut exhibit there way back when my class got a pass for all of us to go see it, and they closed down the museum for us, and we went in. It was after hours in the evening. But so San Francisco is kind of that city, and it's a good setting because it's real thing. It's a very tech savvy area.
Yes. Silicon Valley.
Part of the Silicon Valley. Yeah, my parents had a lot in the hills that it hadn't reached that far out yet. I think they bought it for like $6 an acre or something, really, really cheap because it was scrubland.
Yeah.
And man, they sold it for a lot of money 10 years later because Silicon Valley had made it out that far. It's a very, very rich environment. And I loved that they chose these places. And again, like I said, that campus is in Santa Cruz. That's a couple hours away, but you can say it's part of the San Francisco area. There are forests, like Muir Woods is part of San Francisco with some redwood things in it. It looks a lot like the forests in Star Wars where they go on the rain.
Indoor.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think some of that was actually filmed there because George Lucas isn't that far away from the Bay Area. So there's that atmosphere, the way everything looks. And then the music, which I want to talk about all by itself. We have 2 different kinds of music. We have the soundtrack, like the background music. And then we have, in each episode, there's like one piece of popular music that gets played. In the first episode, it was After the Disco by Broken Bells. And the second episode, which, God, I love this song. It's called Congregation by Low. And they played this several times throughout the episode. One of the best places they used it is the fight between Kenton and Anton. And it was really out of place in that scene, but it made some tension going on there. So did you guys have any thoughts about the either or both, whatever, the kind of orchestral backgrounds and then the popular music in the show?
It did not stand out to me as much as with Midnight Mass. I truly loved Midnight Mass and the way they used that music. But I did enjoy the scenes, and there is a eeriness to that score that very much helps force the atmosphere that they're trying to do.
Now that you mentioned it, I can remember it, but I was so focused on the fight, especially when they fell backwards, because the blocking, I couldn't tell who was winning. So I didn't know who was gonna end up alive or dead at the end of that. But I liked how they cut between the fight, and I think Lily was doing something. I don't remember now. I think that's when she put up the sign that say to tell the guy to get lost.
It was played like 3 or 4 times throughout the episode.
But in general, like the electronical store, it's pretty standard science fiction stuff. So it set the mood, but it didn't jump out at me.
I love it. And the lyrics to that, sometimes the congregation takes the other side. An inquisition of familiar lies, a grave distraction from a quiet rite. Sometimes there's only 3 stanzas in it. Sometimes the congregation can't make up its mind. Incarceration creeps up from behind. The implication is its own device. in the middle of a salient fight. So it points to what's happening. And I thought that fight scene was really, really well done. Again, you don't know who has the upper hand. I think it was meant to look that way.
Yeah.
I think it was a very equal fight. When Kenton fights hand to hand, we already saw that he's very strong. He managed to kill Sergei just by putting a bag over his head and holding him down. So I tend to think that maybe he has a background in some sort of like spy federal
Navy
agency
SEAL
or something. Right.
Yeah. I did wonder, and I guess because his hands were tied down there, but I was like, Sergio, take your finger and try to poke a hole in the.
Yeah.
But I guess he had his
he's a big nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had his hands blocked. I kept on thinking, bite it or something.
Yeah, do something.
Obviously, it's pretty freaky. They really at first I thought, okay, they're not being too graphic with this, but then they came back to it at the end, and I go, oh, geez, they're really showing that bag going in and out. So it was, it was, and of course with those circular lights around the trees, this really made it feel really eerie. So it was,
and there is one scene where you see Forrest and the music goes, and it really scares you. It's almost like a jump scare. And I do think that it, even if you don't notice it, I think it adds to show.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you, pay attention to the songs.
Okay.
A little bit, even if you have to roll it back during a scene.
Did you know the song beforehand? Like, or it's from the show you picked up on?
Just from the show, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But watching it again, I remembered how much I loved the music in this show.
Yeah, it would probably jump out at you more the second time. But
yeah. So if you guys out there listening, Congregation by Low, so good. And there's other music coming up that will be interesting as well.
Well, and I did love the scene between the handler and the security guy, right? When he's like, look, she's an innocent girl. Leave her alone. And he's like, you don't even care about her. You know, he calls him on his BS.
Yeah.
Because I was worried about her. And this is just the standard often what happens is the higher ups don't care about the smaller. They're just pawns in their game.
Yep.
And I like that he used him and then like, no, you don't care. You know, so
how do you like that kind of conversation?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, I'm sorry to see that guy go. Actually,
I know he's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little sad to see him go too. I thought that would have been interesting. Yeah.
And now you have to wonder how's Lily going to continue with her investigation that she doesn't have any contacts. Like, she's lost her Russian contact, so I don't know. But she wasn't going to
go to him anyway.
No.
But again, she doesn't have that to fall back on. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are interested? Looking forward to the next couple of episodes.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the second season.
Awesome. And we don't do ratings for these, right? We're just
No.
So I'm glad you guys liked it. I think there's a lot of stuff coming up that you guys. It'll answer some questions. It will also bring up some more questions. It's kind of this kind of show where it starts like this, and then it goes like this, and then it goes back down to that.
Okay.
So I think you'll like the next couple episodes.
Yeah, it's too bad the episodes don't have titles. They're just numbers. Like
episode one, episode two. Yep, exactly.
I like that title because it gives you a vibe of what's going to happen, or you can start speculating. Now it's just episode 3. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the beauties of Midnight Mass is that the combination of what book of the Bible they were talking about. So
yeah. I don't think they want you to know anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds good.
And that girl statue is creepy.
Yes, it
creepy.
is.
I agree.
I agree. Very creepy.
But the effect is really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real, obviously.
Yeah, I would not want to go to work every day with that.
Yeah.
You know, the giant.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's
an interesting name, Amaya.
Amaya,
I wonder what it means. Because like Maya is usually mother, right? It's a web editor.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's Japanese.
It means mother city.
And night rain. Spanish name is both a given.
There's a variation of it meaning the end.
Yeah. Basque meaning the end. In Japan, it's Amaya is a surname. Interesting.
So it means something too, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you would know. We're just speculating.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing.
You just did.
Well, no, every name means something.
Yes.
I don't think he meant to name her that. I think he and his wife came up with that name and thought it was pretty.
Yeah.
But to us, it might mean
I don't know.
something.
Names are important.
Yes, they are.
That's true. Although my name is the same as my sister's, if you go to derivations, her name's Catherine, my name's Karen, and they're both the same. If you look up Catherine and you look up Karen, they're derivations of each other.
Interesting.
Right.
Cool.
So cool. I'm glad you guys like it. Next week, we'll be talking about episode 3 and episode 4. Again, no meaning
Yes.
to those titles at all.
What will Lily do?
That's right. What will Lily do? What will she do with her ex?
And the other thing is that guy on the doorstep all the time. There's something up with that. There's
Yeah,
there's
the
something
homeless
up with that
guy.
Almost
Yeah,
forgot to
there
mention
is
that.
something. Yes.
The homeless
There's
guy.
got to be something there. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of characters that you're interested in, which I like. The character thing is a big deal for me.
Okay.
I like seeing well-rounded characters,
Absolutely.
so watch
I
for
agree.
that.
I'm looking for character
All right.
development
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. There's
And I
gonna
think I
be
just answered my question about how she's going to move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good.
All right.
So,
Sounds great. Thank you.
wrap it up.
cool. So take us out, Jesse.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you have enjoyed our discussion. Go to iTunes, rate and review us. We certainly need feedback. If you don't like what we're doing, send us to jklb5podcast@gmail.com. You can find me on the Twitter machine at Jesse Jackson DFW. Lou?
You can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, on Twitter at Lou W. Sitzma, or at the Stephen King Podcast.
Okay.
And-
And Karen?
I am at Aleveria, Aleveria, most everywhere. Link in my bio on Twitter to my blog.
All right. So, listeners, please let us know what we're doing. Tell us what you think we should cover next. We're going to continue doing these little mini series. So, we would love to have some ideas of what's going on. But for now, take care, be safe, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. You're waving,
Yay.
Karen. Nobody can hear you.
I know, I'm waving to you guys.
Oh,
Yay.
okay.
And
Oh,
I'm-
okay.
Oh my God, my hands disappeared.
And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.